and welcome back to blackdoctor.org. As you know, I'm here every Thursday night, Dr. Renee, and tonight, so first of all, it's March 31st. And before I even start anything, please share the broadcast. Type in the comments and let me know where you're watching us from. If you're watching the replay, you can type in hashtag replay. But please, please, please let me know where you're watching us from and share the broadcast. So it is March 31st. March is Women's Her Story, Women's History Month. And so we've had some really great shows. But today we're going to close it out because March is also known as National Nutrition Month. So I know we all like food. So I need you to please hurry up and share the broadcast because I know that somebody in your family has diabetes, or a friend or friend has diabetes, has hypertension, has obesity, has so all of these things, you guys, are things that your food can help you with. So food is medicine, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. So please, please share the broadcast. Okay, so National Nutrition Month, we have an amazing dietitian with us today who is going to help us to get it together. She's also, like me, a children's book author. In case you haven't gotten your book, no, Renee, you are allergic. My book's about food, and her books are about food too. So I can't wait for you guys to meet her. Also, little known fact, the last time I saw Stacey, she was 12, which would make me 15. And the funniest thing is her maiden name is Matthews, but no, we're not really related. But this is like a family reunion because I hadn't seen her in person. Well, I still haven't seen her in person, but you know what I mean. So you guys, please come. It's going to be great. Please share the broadcast, and I will bring her on. Good evening, and wait. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I am too, because I know that you have a lot of information for us because as somebody who's worked in the hospitals and been a patient in hospitals, I know that the dietitian is the one that knows between the nutritionist and the dietitian. So, so let's get started. One, as I mentioned in the intro, there are so many diseases that food plays a major role in. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I like to think of food as medicine, which I heard you say. And so if we think of the counter is if we're not eating the right foods, we are setting ourselves up for more likely to have diseases. One, so we can't 100% control those things. But I always say, even if it's destined for us to have some things, we can live a better quality of life and we can prolong those potential chronic diseases. So absolutely choosing to eat a nutrient, so vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, protein, fat, all of those things are going to be super important for your body to do what it's designed to do to stay healthy.
Definitely. So I know a lot of our viewers either know somebody with diabetes or have diabetes. And actually, we just spoke about diabetes last week because this is National Kidney Month as well.
Right.
So let's talk about somebody who was given a pre-diabetes diagnosis.
Okay.
What would you say to them?
So I'm glad that you asked. So this is the first thing that I say. So first, I like to keep it real with my patients. And I find that a lot of physicians will be like, oh, your blood sugars are a little high. We'll just watch it. And I say there are 3 categories of blood sugars. There are normal, there are pre-diabetic, and there are diabetic. You don't have a touch of sugar. You don't have whatever it is. Your sugars aren't just a little elevated. That falls into the pre-diabetic category. And if you do everything the same that you are currently doing, there is a huge likelihood that you will end up with diabetes in the next 10 years. Point blank, period.
And this is what I always tell people. If they tell you pre-diabetes, say thank you because you have an opportunity to flip the script.
Yes. So there is no gray area. It's normal, pre-diabetic, or diabetic. And you probably have mentioned this last week. You start to see chronic changes, especially to your cardiovascular system with prediabetes. So it is a disease in and of itself that can be managed, but it is a disease in and of itself.
So what do you tell them as far as what they should eat if they are pre-diabetes? what they should cut down on or what they should increase?
So my most basic nutrition, because once again, I always say this, nutrition is not one size fits all. What works
Right.
for one person is not always going to work for the next. So my most basic nutrition advice is to eat more plants. That's my most basic nutrition advice. It's
Now,
simple,
are
but
you
it gets to the
saying that
point.
we have to go vegetarian?
No, I just said eat more plants. That's why I said it's the most basic advice that I can give, is that we can all benefit. Even if we're eating lots of plants, we can all benefit from eating more plants. And when I say plants, I mean fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. And we want to eat them in the form or as close to the form as they naturally occur in nature. So the beauty of, so I'm also into gardening and all of this stuff, foraging. And so the beauty is that Mother Earth gives us everything that we need. We just need to know how to utilize it and access that potential for healing. And once again, this is why I call food as medicine. And even when it comes to our produce, I want you to really not just eat produce, but think about eating the rainbow, because the rainbow is going to have, and when I say the rainbow, think of your green vegetables and your red vegetables and your white vegetables and your yellow vegetables. All of those are going to have different nutrients. And when I say that, I mean vitamins and minerals, but also something called phytonutrients or phytochemicals. And so these are things that the plants make for themselves for whatever process that they need. But when we eat them, we get benefit from them, and they help our body fight chronic diseases. So it's really important to get those things, which you also hear phytonutrients referred to as antioxidants. So that's a type of phytonutrient.
So that's a pre-diabetic basic increase your plants. Now, you also mentioned whole grains. So you want to eat them in the most naturalist form. So like I eat steel cut oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
So that is no, because rolled is processed in some way, correct?
It is, but I have to say, and this is where I find that sometimes people feel shamed. They feel like if I'm not doing it right, then I don't want to do it at all. And
Right.
so, we have to meet people where they are. So if you like your rolled oats, I'm not going to knock them. Even if you're eating your instant oats, it's better than eating, I don't know, some sugary cereal.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a move in the right direction. So don't expect perfection tomorrow, but we do want to eat things that we know what they are. We could identify them in nature if we had a farm or whatever it was. So yes, oatmeal is a great choice.
Yes.
But if you don't like oatmeal, I'm not going to tell you to eat oatmeal, because at the end of the day, food and our relationship with food, a lot of it is up here. And so we'll say we're going to do it, and then we get bored or we don't like it, and we're just like trying to tunnel through it. And then we get to a point where you're sick of this, and then you completely just go off the rails.
Right.
So you have
abandon ship. Just forget it.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's important to make sure that you find something that you enjoy. So if oatmeal isn't it, there's plenty of other whole grains to choose.
So also, many people would like to argue that whole grains are white rice, but white rice is not something that you would necessarily recommend for us to eat. Is that correct?
So, so let me go back and talk about what a whole grain is first. And then, so when people, they just hear this and they don't really know what it is. So when a grain is growing, imagine we're at a farm, there's actually three parts of the grain. There's the outer part, there's the inner part, and there's the very innest part. And so that is the whole grain. So when we say we're eating whole grains, they've taken all three of those parts and we're eating them, we're consuming them. When we're eating something that is refined, so it's still a grain, it still offers some nutrients, okay? But when they take those two most outer layers off in the refining process, we're losing about 19 different vitamins and minerals. And so if you see the words enriched, that means that there was vitamins and minerals in there, that you lost some of them during the processing and they added them back. So that's what enriched means.
So that's what the enriched white rice is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so, so here's the difference though. So white rice, I won't knock it. So brown rice absolutely has more fiber. You're going to see your blood sugars. You're going to see them. They're going to rise no matter what type of rice that you're eating. Okay. But you're going to see your blood sugars not rise as quickly because it has more fiber. However, it has the same amount of calories. Okay, so sometimes people will be like, well, I eat brown rice, so I can eat more of it. No. Okay, so it has the
Of
same
course
amount of
we say that.
calories, and you would be eating a same portion, so you don't get to eat more. But I don't like to food shame because people existed for many centuries off of white rice and off of certain things. So we're not here to knock anybody's culture, but um, if we want to talk about blood sugars, brown rice would be a better choice.
Yeah, so like we're West Indian, so West Indian people tend to eat a lot of white rice. It's like a daily staple. A lot of Africans as well, across the entire continent, eat a lot of white rice. But we, and I'm not saying that we're healthier for it. I have relatives that are diabetic, and it's like, okay, you can't eat white rice every day anymore. You're gonna have to, if you must have rice, choose brown. But then there's so many rice alternatives that are whole grains, right? Like quinoa,
Right,
right?
but I'm gonna argue. So I'm out
Okay.
here for you, the people. Not everybody likes those, and
I
so we're
know,
back
I
in
know.
we're back in square one, where somebody's trying to do something that they don't really enjoy, and they're just gonna end up with a big plate of white rice again.
Listen,
So
I'm gonna need Chef Alicia Nicole, aka Foodie Engineer, to come on again. She's come on before and given some healthy meals, but she's gonna have to come on and show you guys how you can make quinoa actually taste good, how you can make cauliflower rice actually taste like it is rice. So yeah, because there are ways.
there are ways, and I will say, quinoa is actually featured in my book. I happen to enjoy quinoa, but I know a lot of people do not.
This is so true. Some people are like, no, no, no. But we get these mixes that it's like quinoa and brown rice or something. So, and it's got a flavoring to it. Your best friend is those is broth, chicken broth and chicken eat vegetable broth if you're a vegetarian, vegetable broth. Those broths, they add such flavor to things that really don't have flavor. And if you just pick up a piece of rice and ate it, you'd realize white rice really has no flavor. So if you add onions or something to it, it will pop and all of a sudden it tastes like something. So if you do the exact same thing to one of these other whole grains, there you go. So we've covered our pre-diabetics, and I'm sure everyone who has ever been told they're pre-diabetic will now pay attention and change things, because if you don't, you will end up with diabetes. So if you do get a diabetes diagnosis, now let me just rephrase this all. These are type 2 diabetics. Type 1 diabetes is a totally different ballgame. That is a autoimmune disease actually, and there's something that happened to the pancreas. It is no fault of the person's body that it's in. Something happened to the pancreas and they need insulin. They can no longer make insulin. They might have been born that way or it was discovered later in life, but they can't make insulin. Type 2 diabetics, this is something that you did to yourself that God is good. You can reverse, or as they say, go into remission with it. So, and I always use my favorite example, Miss Patty LaBelle. She said they told her, and she was like, "What?" And she immediately changed the way she ate, and she doesn't have to take any insulin or anything.
Yeah. So can I just add this
Go
point?
ahead.
So I always like to tell people that there is actually no cure for diabetes, but it
Right.
can be in remission, because I always like to be clear that if you go back to your old habits, expect to see your blood sugars become abnormal again. So if you do all the work and then it starts looking great and they're just like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. Wrong.
So we have somebody who said, I don't enjoy any veggies, but I don't enjoy prescriptions either. So I've chosen to eat veggies for my health, not for enjoyment. Got to do it. Marsha, we can make them enjoyable though. We'll help you. We can make them enjoyable. There's no need for you to be miserable.
No, not at all.
So, okay, so Stacey, so if you get a diabetes diagnosis, now I'm as a dietitian, I'm sure you have to teach people about carb counting and all of that as well, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I actually have met type 2 diabetics for whatever reason, their doctor didn't teach them that.
Well, that's typically a job that a dietitian does, because a lot of doctors, one, don't
Well,
know.
the the doctor didn't, no, but I mean, the doctor didn't point them in the direction, didn't give them a referral, didn't, so they knew nothing. So for people like that, please let me know, what is just blanket, because of course everyone is personalized, but blanket, what is the things that they need to change?
Okay. So when it comes to eating, I want you to understand that carbohydrates are not the enemy. Okay, they are a primary source of energy. So that's one thing that people tell me, I can't ever have pasta again, or I can never have rice again, or I can't have any of these foods. No foods are completely off of limits. Okay, it's all about the amount. Okay, so we can have all these foods. We just have to be a little bit more strategic about them. And I think the easiest way, because once again, it is really a kind of a detailed conversation. The easiest way I would say is to think of a standard dinner plate. I want you to divide that plate in half, and half of that plate, I want you to focus on non-starchy vegetables. I have an intruder. So half of that plate should be non-starchy vegetables of your choice. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It could be greens, it could be green beans, it could be salad, it could be whatever you want it to be there, except our starchy vegetables, which we're going to get to. Those do not go in that space. All right, and now you have a half a plate that's filled with vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, and you have a half a plate that's empty. So I want you to choose to divide that half, that empty half, in half, and now you have 2/4. I want you to choose a lean protein of your choice, and also, and that goes in that fourth, and then the other fourth, that's where our starch, our potatoes, our rice, our bread, our biscuit, whatever we want would go there. Or our starchy vegetables. So our corn, our peas, and our potatoes would go there. And then we can still, that would be considered, as long as it's not heaping, because that's the other thing. People, bye. There's other things, we're not talking about it's stacked this high on your plate. So if it's in that portion, that's actually not a lot of carbohydrates for you. That would be considered 1 serving of carbohydrates. So you could still stand to have about 2 more servings of a carbohydrate. It could be if you drink milk or a milk alternative, those have carbohydrates. It could be something like that in a glass. It could be a serving of fruit, but that's a great way to kind of balance it and not have to get into the carbohydrate counting, at least here. But that's definitely something that you should have the skill to do.
So Kathy, and I saw it and I couldn't find it, so I had to find it on my phone. Reversed pre-diabetic diagnosis, living witness. Exactly, yes, have to maintain a healthy lifestyle. She said that her amazing physician ordered her to see a nutritionist. Kudos to your doctor. Exactly. So Kathy, I am so happy for you. You don't have diabetes. Someone else, Sherry, said A1C dropped with my nutrition and exercise adjustments. See? You guys, we've got testimonials here that you don't have to, you can change yourself. You can do it yourself. You do not have to take medicine. You can do food is medicine. You can do it yourself.
Yes.
So you said half the plate protein. No, I'm sorry.
No, half the plate vegetables, and then a fourth lean protein and a fourth starch. And then we can have like some other carbohydrates on the side, no more than 2 more, depending on who you are. So depending on your height, your weight, you might be able to have more at a meal, but that's a great starting point. And also, I just want to add 2 things. One is that another piece of advice I would give for a pre-diabetic is to exercise, especially if you knew you overdid it with food. Exercise does an amazing job at lowering your blood sugars. And I would make sure that you're well hydrated. So those would be the 3 places that I would start. And going back to the person that says that they don't enjoy vegetables, let me just tell you, you cut up those vegetables, you toss them in a little bit of olive oil, throw them in the oven at 425, and maybe, depending on what it is, you might add a sauce, you might not, but roasting vegetables brings out the natural flavor of food.
Oh, I love roasted vegetables.
Exactly. I can't get enough. Like, my kids will be like, what happened to all the insert whatever vegetables? I'll be like, oh. But yes, so bringing out that natural flavor. Also consider produce, farmers markets and local produce. As produce sits, it's going to lose a little bit of its flavor. So if you can get it as close to being harvested as possible, it's going to taste better.
So the roasted vegetables, she is so right. I roasted Brussels sprouts I could literally eat every day, every day. Um, and I do a little olive oil, a little onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
done.
And it's
But
funny that you said Brussels sprouts, because that was the only vegetable I would not eat as a child. And it wasn't until I was in New York in grad school with my best friend, and she had gotten some Brussels sprouts, probably at like a farmer's market. And I was like, "Why do you have these?" And she's like, "I don't know. I saw them." And so she roasted them. And this is both the first time we both had them again in years. And they were delicious. And we've both been eating them since.
I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And if you have an air fryer, you pop them babies in the air fryer with a little olive oil. Magnifique.
Hmm.
Yes. And done that much faster too. Oh yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Kathy said definitely exercise was recommended to walk for 20 minutes after each meal. If you can't do it after the meals, work towards an hour of walking a day. Yes. Exercise will change your life, I'm telling you. Change your life. So so we have pre-diabetic, we have diabetic. Um Now what about heart patients? So say they've already had a heart attack, or there's somebody whose blood pressures are borderline in that range. What do you suggest for them?
So for cardiac related issues, I would certainly focus on salt. So monitoring your salt intake, and we can go a little bit deeper
Yeah.
into that. And I would focus on your fat intake, um, and a lot on the types of proteins that we're eating. And so, your salt is going to, or your sodium is going to be found at my general state. I love general statements, and then I build from there. If it comes in a box, a bag, or can, unless it says low salt or no salt added, expect it to be high in salt or sodium. So that's our
Okay.
first. That's our first thing. And so we have to target what we're eating and make sure that it's not high in salt, which it probably is, unless we're specifically looking for things or we're making things ourselves. And believe it or not, that the majority of Americans get well over, I think it's actually double their recommended salt intake each day. And most of the salt does not come from cooking. Like when you're cooking at home and adding salt to your cooking, that's not where it comes from. It comes from these packaged meals or when we're dining out. So that would be something. I like to use the nutrition label as a guide. And so the nutrition label, I don't say that it's always helpful for everyone, because the way that it's listed, it's based off a 2,000 calorie diet. And that is an average. And when I say average, that's a mathematical average. So some people need more, some people need less. And when you average them all together, it's about 2,000 calories they say the average person needs. Women usually need under 2,000. Men usually need a little bit above 2,000. And so the nutrition label is based off of a 2,000 calorie diet. So when you look at a nutrition label on the far right, you're going to see a percentage. The thing about sodium is it's a flat number that we don't want you to exceed if you're an adult, which is 2,300 milligrams. And so if you look at that percentage, it will tell you what one serving of that particular food, how much of that percentage in a day that it offers for you. And so general rule, I love general rules, I keep saying them. If it's 20% or higher, without a doubt that is a high sodium item. And so that high sodium item, am I
You're
saying that you
fine.
can
Go
never?
ahead.
Okay. I was like, where'd she go? I'm not saying that you can never eat it, but what I am saying is if you had that high sodium item, it's very likely that you will exceed your sodium recommendations for the day. And what you should do is for the remainder of the day, try to eat things that you prepare yourself. And so that means if you had some oodles and noodles, if you had a can of soup, if you had any of these things that are fast, easy lunch meals, then you really want to make sure that you're having your other meals prepared by your own hands or someone in your household.
You're fine. I don't know what happened. I just
Okay. So that's the salt piece. So I would definitely monitor your sodium keep it under those levels. There's different tiers of which we would like to see. There's something called the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And so there's different levels of which we would want you to limit your sodium intake. And then we get into the fats. And so we want to make sure that we're choosing leaner cuts of meat if we're eating meat. There's also the option not to eat meat. Okay, so there's the vegetarian option. But I also want to say about the vegetarian option is we don't just want to then go eat a bunch of processed meat replacements.
Right.
Those are going to be high in salt or sodium.
Or a whole lot of carbs to fill in the blank of the protein.
Right. So,
of meat.
you know, being a vegetarian isn't necessarily an easy fix for everyone, but we certainly don't have to have the focus on in our meal being the meat, which is what very American is, that there's the meat and then there's the sides, and we can kind of trim it down and have less meat, going back to that plate plan that I talked about, and really having the vegetables be the star of the show, the vegetables and the whole grains being the star of the show. So choosing things that are leaner, so chicken, fish, turkey, trying to choose the whiter cuts of meat. So the darker meats are going to have more fat. I'm not saying you can never eat them. I know somebody's like, I don't just want chicken breast. I'm not saying all you have to do is eat chicken breast.
Bison is also a good option if you're gonna, get away from beef. Bison burgers. I'm telling you, bison meat.
Okay. Yeah. I have been a vegetarian for a few years now, so I haven't had a bison burger, so I can't.
Well, let me tell you, I went to a blogging conference and bison was one of the sponsors, and I learned so much that day. Bison meat was like better, like across the board to chicken, to turkey. I was like, oh my, no, even to fish. So that blew me away. Bison is expensive. I will mention that. Yes. It is not cheap. But if you can afford it, get bison. And let me tell you, a lot of people say it's too expensive to eat healthy. Have you not looked at your healthcare bills? It is a whole lot cheaper for you to stay healthy than it is, and you to eat healthy, than it is for you to be on a whole bunch of medications, a whole bunch of co-pays, because you got to go visit all these different physicians. God forbid you have a serious event and have, and be out of work for a long period of time or have to have surgery. That's where it gets very expensive. So trust me, you want to spend a little money on your food. The other thing I wanted to mention was I have not used table salt in so long. I don't remember the last time I did. What I use is this thing called, and they're not paying me. I should send them a message. They should though. But it's called no salt. And of course, my mother, being the medical professional that she is, picks up the bottle and was like, what is in this? Because that's what I use. And she's like, oh, it's potassium. There are people that have to watch their potassium, some kidney patients that are in dialysis, etc. But I'm not one of those people. I use that. And you couldn't tell me it wasn't salt. It's white and it looked like salt. It's salt. The other thing is, because my sister's a chef and I know these things, spices, and you use your spice rack. I'm telling you, those spices and seasonings, you don't need salt if you use those correctly. You don't have to worry about salt. And there's so many on the market, like our favorite Mrs. Dash. Mrs. Dash specifically is for heart health. So you don't have to worry about, overdoing it with Mrs. Dash. Mrs. Dash I think there's no salt in it, actually.
No,
most of them, yeah. So someone said mustard is good for blood pressure. I didn't know that. That was a new one for me. But yeah, so pay attention to that. So the fats, now we get confused. There's saturated and trans and this and unsaturated. So which ones are the good ones?
Sure. So the good ones, now I love saying this. I hope you guys will appreciate that. So there's 4 different types of fats that you could see on a nutrition label. Legally, only 2 have to be on those. And those are the ones that don't support heart health. Okay. So those are our trans fats and our saturated fat. We want to limit those, both of those combined. We want to limit those to no more than 20 grams per day. The ones that are good for our heart are our polyunsaturated fats, which I like to call PUFAs, and our monounsaturated fats, which I like to refer to as our MUFAs. So our MUFAs and our PUFAs are what our heart needs. It keeps it strong. I want you to think about a fat at room temperature. Think about them in your kitchen. Olive oil is liquid at room temperature. Butter is not. And so these liquid fats are going to have more PUFAs and MUFAs. So we want to choose more fats that are liquid at room temperature and avoid or limit, I'll say. You don't have to completely, avoid anything, but you want to limit the fats that are solid at room temperature.
This is true. And she said if you land in a hospital, they won't feed you well, or at least not fresh, organic, gluten-free with fresh herbs. Now, Myrna, I must say that depends on the hospital you go to, because some of these hospitals, they have James Beard chefs in the kitchen. So
Really?
I'm joking, but I'm saying, but no, there are some hospitals that do have very good, but of course those hospitals are probably in a certain neighborhood, and
Right.
but they do have very delicious meals, or they get catered in from someplace. But yeah, so you just, I know a little bit about hospitals, but yeah, so the fats, that's very important to know. I know that we've become very, very good friends with sunflower oil and grapeseed oil. You have to pay attention to, you guys, to the what is it, the smoke point of the fat.
Mm-hmm.
So olive oil has a high smoke point, I believe. So you just need to pay attention to that as well when you're choosing the fat that you're gonna saute your food in, or if you are gonna fry. Who does that? Use the air fryer. But if you're gonna do something like that, you need to pay attention. So we talked about my cardiac friends. And
But
cardiac
wait,
also, go ahead.
can I also add, and another thing that I would tell people to do is eat more red foods. So red foods, going back to those phytonutrients, they have important nutrients in there to support heart health. So your strawberries, your
Beets.
tomatoes, beets.
Beets is good for lowering blood pressure, FYI.
See, that's those red foods.
Okay, so the chef is home, and she has now told me that olive oil doesn't have a high smoke point. Thank
That's
you,
what I thought.
Food
I was like,
Engineer.
okay. And
See,
for
and Stacey
anybody
didn't
that
say
doesn't,
anything.
but I was like, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know everything, and I'm not a chef. But just for anybody that is not clear, smoke point is the point of which of oil burns. So you don't want to necessarily cook with something that has a low smoke point, because then it's going to burn on you.
Yeah. So thank you, Chef Alicia. Avocado oil is a good oil. Somebody's asking.
I do like avocado oil.
Okay.
My personal preferences, and this is just from taste, are olive oil, grapeseed oil, and avocado oil.
Okay. Okay. Now I have a question that's totally crazy, but so is everyone vegetarian, or it's just you?
So, this is a great piece. So no, so myself and my children are vegetarians. However, I call ourselves vegetarians because
Adjacent?
yeah, really, because I don't like labels. And this is why I was like, oh, this is so great, because people get so hung up on terminologies, and the only person that you're really worried about is you. And so I occasionally eat fish or seafood. I don't eat any meat, don't want to eat any meat, but I do like seafood. And I did this for health reasons, also for environmental reasons. So I don't have a problem with people eating meat, but I don't like the way that meat is packaged in this country. If you're going to go hunt and have your meat, enjoy. You're not going to be able to hunt a bunch of meat. You're going to already be moderated by the amount of meat that you'll be able to eat. Anyway, I digress. My whole point is that these terminologies stress people out trying to meet this ideal that they don't have to follow. And so I like to think of myself as plant-based. The base of my diet is from plants, and what I choose to do occasionally doesn't define who I am or my health. So I just want somebody, that message is going to be good for somebody that's just like, I want to go vegan, but so go vegan, except eat that one thing. Which might be honey. A lot of people don't realize honey is not vegan because it comes
I
from bees.
learned this week. My sister said that this week. I was like, huh?
Yeah. So, that there could be somebody giving you a side eye. Well, you said you're vegan because blah, 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 blah. But You eat honey. Who cares?
Right.
Why are you in my business? So that's the first thing, is just know that make your diet your own and eat what you want and don't worry about labels. Well, don't just eat what you want, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, Someone said too many hormones in meat. I eat meat. I will tell y'all today, I eat meat. I also recently lost 70 pounds, but I eat meat. And I eat meat the whole way too. So, like, but I know my body, and I've had all my testing done, and all my numbers are good, and I'm good. But my biggest thing for me is in moderation. I don't overindulge. Actually, this week though, I've been on this kick of not eating meat. I think I had meat one day this week. Um, like last night, I was like, I'm just gonna have pea soup. They had no meat in it, green split pea soup, and then I had a plate of veggies with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I had the night before too. So yeah, this week I don't know, but yeah, I just you eat what you want to eat, make sure you're healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I try to do more of vegetables than I do of protein. Also, if you don't eat meat, proteins can be found in vegetables as well as in beans, and people always forget the good beans.
And lentils.
Yes, and I call lentils beans too, but yes. And I used to do this thing. I would make lentils with spinach, and I would eat that Monday through Friday, and then I would allow myself meat on Saturday and Sunday.
Hmm.
That was my little thing. But I did that for a little bit. But I guess I must have overdid it on Saturday, Sunday because I was very overweight at the time. But that was just me. Um, but anyone have any questions, please make sure you put them in the chat. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, last week, like I said, we talked about kidney. So I'm sure you've worked with people on dialysis. What are things because there's so many restrictions with them. I feel so bad that I'm just like, what can they do to enjoy, because some people do enjoy eating.
Yeah, so that one is really hard, and I have to be perfectly honest. I haven't had a patient on dialysis in a while, but there's fluid restrictions. There
Right.
can be sodium restrictions. There can be protein restrictions. There can be so many potassium restrictions. There can be all kinds of things. So that's going to be a very, very specific type of conversation depending on what their restrictions are, and it does become very challenging.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to the conversation that we're having now. It's best to take care of yourself to not end up in that situation.
Amen. Exactly. Okay. So somebody said protein from flax, chia, hemp seeds for those who have their green smoothies. Oh, the greens spoiling too fast before they hit the smoothie. Yes, I agree. I agree. Um, they said land animals get their protein from veggies and plants. This is true. They don't eat other animal. They don't eat other meat. That is true. That is true. So please tell us about your books.
Oh, sure. So I have a series of books called Delicious and Nutritious that was inspired by my family. And so my family is depicted in each one of the books or the books to come. And the first one was inspired by my middle daughter. And so when she was about 2 or 3, she just stopped eating everything. Like at this point in time, we just ate meat. We ate everything. And she just stopped eating meat. And I found myself, and you remember I'm a dietitian, so I'm already like fine with eating meals without meat. And so I just had to kind of flip it up. Like, just, all right, so now we're eating all these beans and we're eating these other things. And her favorite was black beans. All she would eat is black beans. And she still loves black beans to this day. And I remember being like, this is unreal. This is so crazy. I should write a book about a little girl and all she'll eat is beans. And it'll be like a melanated version of Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham. And, the little girl will go throughout the book and people will offer her things and she'll be like, no, no, no. And at the end, she learns that these foods can be both delicious and nutritious. But I didn't know how to write a book. So fast forward to COVID and, everything is virtual. And I happened to take a online masterclass, a children's book masterclass by Crystal Swain Bates. So kudos to her.
Oh, I know who she is.
Yes. And I was like,
Traffic
wait a
Sales and
minute.
Profits. Yeah, Lamar Tyler. Lamar was on my show. That's Dr. Renee
Yeah.
show.
So I was just like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And that is how my book was born. I did know that since I have three children and I wrote a book about one, I was going to have more.
2 more books.
I was like, because they're looking at me like, what? You're writing a book about her? What about us? And so my next book will, let me take it a step back. So the book is called The Princess of Picky Eating Tries New Foods. It's a great read aloud, lots of alliterations, lots of repeating phrases. So Sloane's phrase is no thank you, not today, no way. That's what she always says throughout the book. And so the book goes food group to food group. So people don't always catch this when they read it. So I talk about each different food group and introduce a food that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you were an adventurous eater, but you could find. And so you'll probably enjoy that my vegetable was callaloo. And yes, the grain was quinoa. And so we talk about where in the world that they originate from and those types of things. And so I got the suggestion when I was writing that book that like, oh, this is a great book, but it's called The Princess of Picky Eating. My son probably wouldn't like that book. So I flipped the book and I have the same book, but it's called The Prince of Picky Eating. And there's just the main character is a boy. Then
Gotcha.
I have the accompanying coloring books to each of those books. And then in the spring, which it's now the spring, I'm super excited to get my final files. I will be releasing the next book in the series called Grow, Eat, Repeat, A Love Letter to Black Eyed Peas. And it's all about a little girl's journey with growing food and learning about the cultural relevance of Black Eyed Peas and her specific family's relationship to Black Eyed Peas.
So, what age groups are these books for?
The first book is best suited for K through third grade. And I will say it is my writing style. I love to use big words. My kids use big words because I use big words. So expect to see some vocabulary words in there. And I even put a glossary in the back because I realize that some of these terminologies, like there's monounsaturated fatty acids in my book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I realize some adults can't really explain it. So throw a glossary in the back. So I would say it's best suited for K through 3, but some people were like, oh, this is kind of not dense, but longer than a typical K through 3 book. But the little kids love it because of all the alliterations. And I would say that the new book would be somewhere similar.
Okay.
Maybe even first through fourth.
Okay. Okay. That is really cool. Somebody asked their mom is 92 and loves beef. How can I buy the best beef for her?
So I am not the best person to ask because I
Organic.
haven't bought beef, but yeah, I would say organic. What do they call it? The
It's farm raised,
farm
right?
raised, yeah, where they're not putting the beef in like a little square, so it can free range, organic, no antibiotics, and it's gonna be pricier than your standard beef, which also helps you not eat as much.
Right. Right. So yeah, organic, grass fed. What's the
Yes,
difference? Oh, that's the one, grass fed. Okay.
yeah.
Um,
But once again, I'm not quite
yeah,
sure.
I
I don't
know, and I
remember.
was hoping that the chef was about to say something. She ain't said it yet though. So you guys, here's my book, and it is also about food, but our line is no, Renee, you are allergic. So that's the line that repeats all through the book because that's what my mommy kept telling me because I was allergic. So everyone's like, you're allergic to everything. How do you eat healthy? Because I'm not allergic to vegetables and I'm not allergic to meat. And I was like, that's how. I am allergic to citrus fruits, which takes one category of fruit out, but not, I can still have apples and pears and, berries. And then I'm allergic to seafood. So, no, I cannot have anybody's fish of any kind. Can't smell it cooking at all. So that is one place, and that's actually why. And I'm still working at it, but I did Weight Watchers, and that's why I love Weight Watchers because I could eat what I could eat. Whereas if I did another diet plan, they were going to tell me this is what you have to eat at this time, And usually I can't make it through breakfast because I can't have eggs. And most diet plans, they want you to have eggs and wheat toast, and I can't have wheat toast either. So that's why I like Weight Watchers, because I was able to eat what I knew I could eat physically, was able to digest without killing myself. So I can eat lots of things. I'm allergic to some stuff. I'm allergic to chocolate and nuts, which really knocked out candy bars for me. So I really was not a candy bar person. I like Twizzlers, but I'm not big on candy, but that's probably why, because I couldn't eat most of it. But, you know, somebody said her daughter was allergic to apples for her first 25 years. Now at 27, she's no longer allergic. Well, good for her. That's awesome, because apples are good. Apple pie, apple cobbler, apple crisp. Okay, but I digress. But everyone, I put Stacey's website. It's been running and running at the bottom, StaceyWoodson.com. Make sure that you go to her website and check out her books, because they are too cute. But yes, StaceyWoodson.com. Check out her books, and she really is amazing. You homeschool too, don't you?
Yes, I do.
She's insane, is what she is. But yeah, she's a superwoman. She homeschools 3 children, 3 different grade levels, not triplets.
Yeah.
And and she's an author, and she's a dietitian, and she's a wife, and so she's just amazing. So you guys, please make sure you go to her website. How can people follow you online?
Sure. So you certainly can go to my website. You can join my mailing list, because I like to keep people up to date with what's going on. I actually have an event that I will be doing for kids on Saturday. So join my mailing list. You'll get notified. And if you want to just see like a little bit of what I do, I also do a lot of food activism. So making sure people have access. We've already talked about how, having fresh produce is so important, and eating more plants is so important. But sometimes people live in food deserts. And so I do a lot of work with community gardens and curriculum development, and that, making sure people know how to grow their own. If you'd like to follow that journey, my homeschooling journey, any of that, you can see me most frequently on Instagram. And my handle is Mothering While Melanated. And melanated is spelled MELANT, MELANATED. Mothering While Melanated. And that has all of our journeys, our homeschool journeys, correctly? My professional journeys, my gardening journeys, all of that.
Melanated is spelled
And if you'd like to have an autographed copy of, I'm sorry?
Melanated is spelled MELANATED.
Did I lose you?
Okay, your sound went out, I think. Hold on. I'm going to look it up. I think your headphones might have died. You guys, 1 second. I'm going to tell you.
Is this better?
Well, now you couldn't hear us. I think one of your headphones died. Okay, so here it is. Mothering While Melanated.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's how you can follow her. Please go follow her on Instagram. You guys know I'm at Ask Dr. Renee. You can follow me on all platforms at Ask Dr. Renee. Oh, and somebody else posted it too. Thank you so much, Catherine. Oh, and someone else signed up. Perfect. Thank you, Myrna. But and you can sign up for my email list too. But what I wanted to tell you is Saturdays, I usually do my show, the Ask Dr. Renee show, Saturdays at 3:00 Eastern. And this Saturday we have a really amazing guest. He wrote Champagne Life for Neo, and he's done some other amazing things. So please, if you would like to come check us out live, otherwise you can always watch the replay. But thank you so much. Yeah, she is echoing. I noticed, Agnes. That's because she turned off her headphones. But thank you so much, Stacey, for your time this evening. Everyone, next month is April, as in tomorrow. And so we will see next week. I'm planning something big. Let's hope it comes off well. But April is a whole lot of things. Fertility Awareness Week is in April. It's Autism Awareness Month in April. So look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday. Same time, same place. Bye.
Bye.